Good evening, Glue Troopers. Max of Max's Models here, and I got a lot of work done on the Tamiya 1/32 scale F4J Phantom. I got some more decals on it. Got pretty much all of the major decals on. Cleaned up some issues with the paint. Got the ejection seats done. So let's start off with the paint. The red trim around the inlets had a little bit of bleed, so I cleaned it up, masked it off, tried it again, and unfortunately that paint pen, the ink or paint that it uses is so thin that no matter how much I burnished it down, it actually capillaried in underneath worse. So I had to clean it a second time, and then I just used brush paint to touch up the areas and get it straight. The decal that was on the left side was so close, I was really afraid of making a mistake, but I got through it without too much hassle. And I cleaned up some of the glare shield that had hints of overspray in a few spots. So that was pretty much it for the painting. So I started painting the ejection seats, got them put together. What I wound up doing was the yellow paint. At first I was airbrushing yellow on the B handles, ejection handles, but I was like, you know what, it's going to be, this is so small, it's going to be easier just to go ahead and use a paintbrush. So I painted them, let it harden, painted the red, let that harden, removed it from the runner tree. And there were a lot of different ways I could have gone about it, masking or decal stripe or a paint pen or a fine tip paintbrush. But in the end, I wound up using a hard tip fine point Sharpie. It left a band that was just the right width, so all I had to do was put the tick marks on the top, 9 per side, and then once they were in place, I could continue the tick mark straight down on the inside and outside, and then do the bottom. And not perfect, but good. And certainly when I look at it, it looks fine. If you get close, use a magnifying glass, you're going to see the blemishes, but I'm not getting that into the weeds. It looks good. I'm happy with it. And it actually went a little smoother than I expected. One little blemish that I had to clean up, but not bad. So the major decals are on it now. They were Solvaset and Microsol and Microset. And the only real hiccup I had was the decal that goes on the bottom of the wing. I thought I had put it on upside down because the star was facing rearward. Like, I've got it wrong. But then it turned out, no, that's the angle that it sits at. It makes it look like the star is pointing down, but it's actually not. It's on at an angle. And it has these stripped sections that overlap to go around the hinges on the fold mechanism. And I actually had it in place right one time when I thought it was upside down. And then I started to change it and looked at it, and oh man, I had it right. I should have left it alone. But it did some damage to it, getting it back in place. But nothing too serious. I'll maybe use a little blue paint to touch it up. But on the other hand, one could simply say, first off, it's on the bottom of the wing, and secondly, it's not exactly, it's the hinge point that's where the paint would get rubbed off anyway. So chalk it off as wear and tear, go in and touch it up. But that's the worst thing that happens. Hooray. And put a little effort into some colorations for the rear end where all the heat's at. It discolors the metal and, of course, the exhaust nozzles. And that's actually, I'm liking the way that looked. I was test fitting them, and they fit in so snug that I didn't even bother to glue them. I may do that later, but I'm like, okay, they fit fine. I'll take them out and glue them. They won't come out. Well, friction fit works for me. One less glue smear to worry about. So the ejection seats are in, the engine nozzles are in, the missiles are pretty much done and on the racks. I'm not going to put the sidewinders or the drop tanks on until I get all the decals on, because I think I have 118 decals left to go. And while we're talking about the missiles, only one sidewinder and one Sparrow actually had to be repainted. The rest of them looked fine. Never judge a paint job until the paint gasses out. And funny thing that the reason I had to redo the Sparrow or touch it up was that they had these conduits on them, and the conduits had to be exposed. Well, I had actually held the missile by the wrong fin, so the conduits are in and the thing wouldn't lay down in its recess. So, take it off, little prime, little paint, let it harden, and she went fine. The sidewinders, pretty straightforward. One of them was a little messed up, and so I sand it down, prime paint, boom, done, and looks fine now. So the little 100 odd plus little decals to go, and then get the missiles and bombs on it, then clear coat it, and then peel the mask off, and we're pretty much done. It's actually really making forward progress, but it's going to take quite a bit of time to get all those decals on. And I have a theory. I was looking at the photos of the Colonel's actual airplane. I think, I know Tammy likes to go to museums to get dimensions and paint schemes and try to get everything right, and God bless him for that. But there's an F4S, which I believe is the model with the slats. I think it was the last model the Navy used. That's on display. I painted up like the Colonel's plane. And I noticed that they sort of made the model look like that one. And maybe they used reference photos, but I'm not sure. So that might it might explain a few minor anomalies based on the photos I saw of the airplane actually in 71 and 72. But no big deal. It's looking good. I'm very happy with the way this build is going. Maybe I can get it to the Colonel before Christmas. Got the names on the canopy rails, and that's kind of a source of pride right there. These little MiG kills flags are included in the decal sheet, and I'm thinking, I wonder if they did that because that's what's on the airplane in the museum, or maybe they saw the photo where they posed by the two flags on the intake strake of a different F4 because theirs was the bottom of the ocean. But who knows? Anywho, these are the things that occupy my mind. Well, I have to head off to work tomorrow evening, so I hope to get some more work done on it tomorrow. And don't think I'll finish it. I don't want to rush the decals because these are the 100-odd little ones, and that's a real easy thing to start getting wrong. Not sure I'm going to put on all the no steps and no pushes because I'm not seeing those on the wartime aircraft, only on the post-war aircraft. Again, that may have come from the museum airplane, or it just maybe the photographs are so grainy that you can't see that stuff, and it was there. I really don't know. I might talk to the Colonel about it, but that's a pretty minor thing. And one final little tidbit. The two doors on the belly that open up to allow cooling air for the engine when the airplane's on the ground, I had them closed up because this is going to be like it's getting ready for a cat launch. But then I realized that some glue troopers are very familiar with the Phantom, sent me some footage of them, and when they're on the ground, those doors are popped open to help cool the engine. So I painted everything in there, and I'm going to go ahead and pose those doors, cracked open like they would be before launch. Planning to pose the model canopies open, and that would, they're not ready for takeoff if the door's open. So there you go. Anyway, coming together, loving life, liking the way it's looking. And that's what I got. So should get back Friday night. We'll still have a live stream on Saturday if good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We will talk at you guys later. Hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. You take care of yourselves. And as always, model on.